What's up, friends? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Pam, and today we're talking about integrated pest management. So if you've been here for a little while, you probably have heard me talk about this here and there before, but today I'm putting everything I know about the things that I have used and had success with into one video. So my exact experience revolves mostly around spider mites and thrips. The Spidermite came first. So that was, I brought home an infested plant. You know how it goes. I didn't know any better. My plants were touching, which they still are touching. I'll get into that later, but you know, it just, a bad thing happened very quickly and I lost control of the situation. Okay, so here's the deal. I was just sitting down to do a very different video, a happy video, a video which I was very excited to film, and instead, while I was gathering up the plants for said video, I noticed one was entirely engulfed in webbing. I'm gonna have a little bit of a nervous breakdown, just a little tiny one, a small nervous breakdown, and then I'm going to start treating all the plants in the house. So. Okay, so who is this for? When do you know it's time to go beyond the traditional methods of getting rid of houseplant pests and bring in the integrated pest management? For me, that is when you have a large collection. I'm talking anywhere from like 30 plants to hundreds of plants. This is a great option because scrubbing, cleaning, showering, spraying every single plant in your house every 2 weeks to beat the life cycle of most pests is a Herculean task, and it's going to be really difficult for most people to do that. If you have the time, I mean, go off, sis, but most of us don't. So this is a great option for you, and that brings me to the stressed or desperate parent. If you are at the point where you're ready to throw your plants away, you're ready to give up and find a new hobby, you're losing money on plants that are dying, this is a way to make sure you will gain the upper hand, and you will have to do very little labor to get there. This is a good option when all other options have failed. If you're just not able to get rid of these pests with sprays or, you know, even poisons, whatever it is that you're trying to use, and if you have kids, pets, anyone in the house that you're afraid of using toxic substances, the safest of safe is still, you know, it's still something you're spraying, it's still something you're putting into your environment, and a lot of people aren't comfortable with that. So this is a great option for them as well. So there are, of course, some downsides to this. If you're a squeamish person and you don't like bugs, this is gonna require some bravery on your behalf, maybe a partner or a friend that can help you apply them. I think the biggest downside to this is that it can be an investment. It's not cheap, you know, it's like $8 to buy a bottle of spray or a bottle of neem oil or whatever, but it's gonna cost you, you know, anywhere from like $50 to a couple $100 to really attack a large collection with your beneficials. And it depends on how many layers you want to go. I tend to do 1 to 2 things above on the leaves and something in the soil as well. And then the shipping tends to be a bit expensive because the handling and then like the processing of the insects is actually kind of a pain. You will pay a little bit, but I would say I average about $140 or so when I put in an order to, you know, do my spring and fall applications here. They do need to be applied really within like 24 hours of getting them, ideally as soon as you get them. They do have some environmental conditions, which of course when you order them and visit the websites and stuff, they will tell you all of the ideal temperatures. A lot of them need to be kept out of direct sunlight and stuff like that. For the most part, I have not really altered my environment in any way, and they seem to have done the job anyway, but just something to keep in mind. Okay, so my beneficial insects have arrived. I've already taken them out of the box and actually cracked the container open, which was, well, not super smart because you're not going to probably be able to see them on this shot, but there are little predator mites crawling just all over the lid of the can. So we're going to take the lid of the can here and put that over on my semi-hydro plants that don't have soil for me to shake them out onto. And then we're gonna get started spreading these guys. I have 50,000 little mites in here, and these guys are going to make sure that the thrips that have been terrorizing me do not gain foothold in my collection again. We have not seen a lot of thrip activity at all in the last few weeks. So I'm hoping that this is a great time to release these guys. I think that my reoccurring use of these guys has been what has saved all of these plants from the fate of thrips related death. And finally, on the application process, like how often you need to do it, you want to try for like spring and fall. I think you could also do a summer as well. A lot of the mites don't like high temperatures. Most of them will come out at night as well. So you actually won't see them most of the time. So that's another upside. If you're a bit squeamish about it, you're probably not even gonna see them. I have seen them on my plants here and there, but definitely almost never. So which ones do I specifically use? So again, I was dealing with Spidermite and Thrips. So my introduction to integrated pest management was the Amblyseius andersoni, and that is for spider mites specifically. They do eat thrips, but they're not quite a thrip predator to the point where you could use them alone for thrip control. I do use them in combination with the next mite that I'll tell you about, and that is the Amblyseius cucumeris. I will favor the cucumeris at the moment because I do have more of a thrips issue. So like if I'm short on cash or something and I can only get one, I will get that one, but I do tend to use both of them. You can see this is just kind of in, I believe this is like vermiculite or something, and there's just a bajillion of these little guys crawling around in there. So you basically just sort of go around and shake some of them out into the plants. So ideally, I like to get them in these little sachets, and this one's kind of old, so it's a little cruddy looking. These are some of the ones that I've gotten from my friends that grow the cannabis, and you can just hang these on the plant. The cool thing about the sachets is that they're sealed and they only have a very small hole in them, which you absolutely should not make any bigger. They are a perfect environment for the predatory mites. So they are really the ideal application. The problem is that they are much more expensive than getting them in a loose material like vermiculite. So both of these mites like it around between like 65 and 75 degrees, and you'll find all that information on, I've linked a bunch of stuff down below for you in the description box. You can find all of the specific information on these things on the company websites such as Arbico Organics or Nature's Good Guys are a couple that I'm familiar with. I tend to order from Arbico Organics, and I do have some friends that have used Nature's Good Guys, so I feel kind of comfortable recommending both of those to you. You don't need a whole lot to get through your entire, apartment or house or whatever. I've gone pretty overboard a couple of times just because I had to order in such bulk numbers, but I was fine with that. We were definitely at the point where I was fine with that. So if you do get the mites in the loose medium, such as vermiculite, you just basically have to sprinkle it on. You sprinkle it on the leaves, and you can put it in the soil if you want. You basically just have to let the mites sort of disperse onto the plant, and then after a day or two, you can just, wipe the vermiculite off the leaves. But I prefer to use a small paper cup, and you can punch a hole in that and you can hang it with like a string, something like that, off the plant. But basically you want the mites to have a real direct path out of their medium or their pouch directly onto the leaf. And another upside to using this is, a lot of the pest prevention tips that you get tend to tell you not to let your leaves touch and things like that. I don't know what kind of minimalist space those plant parents are living in, but that is not my lifestyle. So my leaves need to touch. And the good thing about leaves touching when you're using beneficial insects is that they have a nice little bridge over to the plant next door, and you don't have to hang the, sachets or cups or sprinkle on every single plant in your entire house to get a good dispersion. Yeah, that it could be from anywhere from like 1 to 20 mites per square foot is your goal zone. But when you go on the websites, they'll also tell you how many of each specific thing you will need for your exact square footage. And just a pro tip, if you don't know your square footage, sometimes you can look it up on Zillow. Now with nematodes, I read online that you should put them in with like a sprayer, like one of those, like a landscape, I don't know what they're called, the pump sprayers. There you go, pump sprayer. I actually just put them in with a watering can. And we are well into the seed starting season, and normally I have a lot of fungus gnat activity in my house around this time because you have to keep seedlings moist, and I was having, fungus gnats from my house plants relocating into the damp soil of my seedlings. And this year, are you coming in? Oh, good boy. So you should apply your nematodes in the morning or the evening, just generally to keep them out of, really hot soil or anything. It's usually not a thing you need to worry about indoors, so I wouldn't sweat that too much. But they, above 95 degrees, are not very active anymore. Are you chewing the sequins? Don't do that, please. No. Okay, come on. All right. There you go. So you have like a good rounded out attack on both spider mites, fungus gnats, and thrips in my house right now, just by having all of those things. So do you need to get this many beneficials? You know, no, of course not. You can go and you just start with one. It depends on what you have going on. If you have a lot of fungus gnats, I would say go for the nematodes. Those are under the soil. That's where the fungus gnats are laying their eggs. That's your best bet right there. If you're dealing with the thrips, you want to lean maybe towards the cucumeris, although the websites will tell you if you have an established really bad infestation, it might be difficult to control that with just the cucumeris. But to that I say I did. But of course, remember that most of these website instructions are written toward greenhouses, like industrial greenhouses. So they're not necessarily thinking houseplants when they write these instructions. So that's why I wanted to make this video, just to give you guys the experience of somebody who's used them on houseplants, not in a greenhouse. So there are some other options that I don't use. If you watch Summer Rain Oaks' channel, Homestead Brooklyn, you know that she's a big fan of green lacewings. I don't bother with that because this dum-dum and the other dum-dum will knock everything in my house over chasing the smallest of insects. That's why I don't bother with them. It wouldn't really bother me to have them in the house too much, but for me, like things that are flying around, that's like the next step up of, you know, bringing in beneficials in your house. Whereas I just have things that crawl on the leaves that I never see because they mostly come out at night. And if you're wondering, do these things crawl off the plants? Are they gonna get on me? Are they gonna be in my food? Are they gonna get in my kitchen? Like, no, they're not gonna do any of that. They stay on plants, that's where their food is. So it's the same thing with your, you know, your spider mites and things like that. They're not gonna go anywhere that doesn't have food for them. So you have to remember that it's the same thing for the beneficials. So if that helps you feel better, like you're probably not gonna see them. They're definitely not gonna touch you. They don't bite, they don't sting. They're fine. Okay guys, so before I let you go, I just wanted to touch on one more very important factor, and I hope people are still watching. I should have said this at the beginning, but make sure that whatever you bring into your house is native to your area. So the insects and the mites that I have talked about, the nematodes, things like that, those are all okay to be used in North America, in my area. And that's information, again, that you'll be able to find on the websites, but make sure you do your research because you don't want to be letting an insect out that could possibly get out of your house and become a problem in the environment. So it's just something to keep in mind. Okay friends, I hope that this quick video helped you out, and I hope that you are feeling brave and ready to try integrated pest management. I encourage you to cut the costs by splitting them with other friends who are into plants. Maybe you could make friends at your local plant shop with the owner or somebody that may have a need to place orders like that. They are so worth it, guys. Like, I can't tell you, my collection has been saved by these predatory mites. All right, there be children screaming inside and outside of my house, so I'm gonna wrap this one up here. I hope this video has left you guys feeling brave and ready to try some integrated pest management. Let me know down below what you think, even if you're just not ready to go there yet. Let me know if you have any other questions down below, and I'll do my best to answer them, and I will see you guys very soon in the next one. Bye.